Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Literally seconds. Picture this. You're the newly minted savior of the franchise, sitting down for what should be a completely standard, completely routine promotional interview for EA Sports College Football 27. The cameras are rolling, the mic is hot. But before we get into the absolute earthquake of a statement that just dropped, welcome to NFL Nexus. We are diving deep into this explainer today, so do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, let us know what you think in the comments, and if you really want to support what we do, consider becoming a channel member. Because this isn't just an off-season headline. This is a massive, seismic shift for a historic franchise. The #1 overall pick from 2024, the Chicago Bears' brand new $39.5 million fully guaranteed franchise quarterback, was asked a simple question about the all-time greats. He didn't give a safe, polite PR answer. He didn't dodge the landmines. He looked right into the camera and said, "I put Brady as #1, and for me, Aaron Rodgers is probably #2.
Think about the sheer gravity of those words in the city of Chicago. As we look at the 2026 Chicago Bears, we are witnessing a historic franchise on a violent collision course. On one side, you have a deeply traumatic, painful past. On the other, a high-stakes, meticulously built future. Most young quarterbacks, especially rookies carrying the weight of a desperate city, totally avoid these legacy questions. They give you the cliches. But Caleb Williams, he walked straight into the fire. He ranked the absolute architect of Chicago's misery, the guy who literally tortured this franchise for over a decade, above Peyton Manning, above Joe Montana, above Patrick Mahomes. Williams cited Tom Brady's 7 Super Bowls as the unchallengeable gold standard benchmark. Sure, everybody does that. But then, to slot a one-time champion in Aaron Rodgers above every other legend in the history of the sport, that takes either supreme, unbreakable confidence in your own skin or an absolute terrifying indifference to the massive amount of scar tissue carried by the Chicago fan base.
Section 1. The Ghost of 24/5, a one-sided clinic.
To truly understand exactly why Williams' quote lit such a massive fuse across the entire city of Chicago, we have to unearth the history. And it is a dark, painful history. Calling Bears-Packers a rivalry over the last 15 years is almost mathematically incorrect. It's a bloodbath. Across the 213 total games played in this historic series, very few stretches have been as downright brutal as the Aaron Rodgers era. And that brings us to this specific, haunting number, 24. That is Aaron Rodgers' terrifying win total against Chicago. A 24-5 record as a starting quarterback. Let that sink in for a second. He won over 82% of his starts against the Chicago Bears. He literally closed out his tenure in Green Bay by ripping off 8 consecutive victories against them. But it's not just the wins. It's the microscopic, agonizing details of how he did it that make it a total nightmare for Bears fans. We're talking about a career 109 passer rating against this team, 64 touchdown passes against just 10 interceptions. While Chicago frantically cycled through a revolving door of quarterbacks, head coaches, and general managers trying to stop the bleeding, Green Bay just calmly sent the exact same guy out there twice a year to systematically dismantle them. And Caleb Williams just called him his personal #2 all-time. You can feel the immense psychological tension here, right? Because Chicago didn't just hand Caleb Williams a $39.5 million contract strictly for his arm talent. I mean, the arm is incredible, but they paid him that money to be the ultimate eraser, to completely wipe away the trauma left behind by the very idol he just publicly praised. When a franchise quarterback openly venerates the enemy's greatest weapon, it sends a massive, undeniable shockwave through the entire building. Remember, the Packers still play in the NFC North. Every single veteran Bears defender who suited up and took those beatings during those 24 losses, they know exactly who Williams just elevated. But if you look at it from Williams' perspective, he's basically telling the football world that he's been studying Rodgers. He genuinely respects the absolute dominance, the surgical precision, the rare ability to just own an entire opposing franchise. He's bringing a completely new generation's mindset into the locker room, completely rewriting the criteria of greatness without caring about the old rivalries.
Section 2. Building the War Machine, arming the 2026 offense.
But look, while the heavy shadow of the past is definitely lingering, General Manager Ryan Poles and head coach Ben Johnson are absolutely not sitting still. They are aggressively, almost obsessively, building a massive offensive war chest to protect their young investment. The strategy here is crucial. Williams is under team control through 2028 with incredibly modest cap hits. That is the golden window in the NFL. That rookie contract is exactly why the Bears can afford to go out and surround him with this level of elite weaponry. Just look at this 2026 arsenal. You've got Caleb Williams at the helm pulling the trigger. On the outside, Rome Odunze and Luther Burden are ready to just stretch the field and terrify secondaries. And then in the backfield, a devastating 1-2 punch with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monagai. When you dive into the 53-man roster projections, the depth behind these guys is staggering. It completely opens up the playbook, allowing Ben Johnson to power his heavy, bruising 13 personnel packages. Make no mistake, this is a meticulously built, high-octane operation specifically designed to ensure that this generation of Bears football looks nothing like the past.
Section 3. Disrespected in the ranks. The running back duel.
Now, even with this absolute war machine perfectly assembled, they are still out there fighting for respect. You'd think the league would be on notice, right? Well, Bleacher Report recently put out a massive deep dive ranking all 32 NFL running back tandems, and despite anchoring a wildly successful, incredibly physical rushing offense, Chicago's duo of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monagai somehow only landed at number 2. Let's really look at the microscopic margins that kept them out of the top spot. The number 1 crown went out west to the Rams duo of Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, but get this, Chicago's Swift and Monagai were the absolute only running back duo in the entire National Football League to each rush for over 750 yards individually. Together, they piled up a massive 1,870 combined rushing yards. But the Rams duo just edged them out, hitting 1,998 yards and racking up 19 total touchdowns compared to Chicago's 15. So why exactly did Chicago fall just short of the crown? In the NFL, the smallest details dictate everything. Swift missed a little bit of time dealing with a minor injury, while Monagai, stepping in as a rookie, naturally took a few weeks to fully earn the coaching staff's trust in pass protection and high-leverage situations. It is an incredibly tight race at the top of the league.
But honestly, if you listen to DeAndre Swift talk heading into 2026, the rankings don't matter to him at all. His confidence is just totally unwavering. He flat out said, there's no drop-off at all. He's able to do everything. I'm able to do everything. It's tough on defenses when I make something happen. His number gets called. He makes something happen. It's a lot for a defense to account for 4 quarters. That is a terrifying quote if you're a defensive coordinator. Because this isn't just about flashy stats. It's about pure physical dominance. Coupled with the schematic mastery that Ben Johnson brings to the table, this rushing scheme isn't designed to just get first downs. It is designed to be relentless, to punish you, and to systematically wear opponents down physically and mentally until they completely break in the 4th quarter.
Section 4. The 53-man battlefield. The trenches of minicamp.
But let's be totally real for a second. All of these explosive offensive weapons, the great quotes, the grand plans, they mean absolutely nothing if the foundation up front crumbles. We have to zoom out and look at the grueling, incredibly unforgiving reality of the 53-man roster cuts happening right now. Every single rep in minicamp is a literal fight for financial survival and a spot in the NFL. Let's detail these brutal battles on the offensive line because this is where championships are actually won. The Bears clearly have a top-tier unit with absolute locked-in starters. You've got Braxton Jones, Joe Thuney, Garrett Bradbury, Jonah Jackson, and Darnell Wright. That's a wall. But the NFL is ruthless, and here are the smallest details that can completely alter a franchise's trajectory. Veteran tackle Jedrick Wills, a guy with real pedigree, is suddenly incredibly vulnerable and might legitimately not make this roster. And the absolute shocker of camp, undrafted free agent Caden Barnett. The Bears aggressively targeted him with a highly paid UDFA contract right after the draft, and his rare versatility to play both guard and tackle is actively earning him a coveted spot to protect Caleb Williams' blind side.
Now you flip over to the defensive front, and the stakes are just as high, but the questions are massive. The contrast between the offense and the defense right now is super stark. Montez Sweat is a bona fide standalone superstar out there on the edge, but he is anchoring a defensive line that has some huge question marks. He's looking across the line at a group of unproven, raw talents like Austin Booker, Deo Odingbo, and Shamar Turner. They need one of these guys to step up and become a true terror. And the interior? It's just as tense. You move back to the linebackers, and former second-round pick Ruben Hypolite is finding himself on highly vulnerable ground after a pretty rough rookie campaign, especially with a hungry player like Jack Sanborn aggressively hunting for his exact job. It is a completely ruthless, cutthroat environment where draft pedigree goes out the window and every single spot is earned in the dirt.
And all of this intense competition brings us right to Coach Ben Johnson's blunt, honest reality check. When the media asked him about integrating all these new pieces on the offensive line, about protecting Caleb Williams and paving the way for Swift and Monagai, he didn't sugarcoat the situation at all. He said, it is a race. It's a race for us to get to know each other a little bit more. You saw a year ago it took us a minute before that run game started to get going and clicking. There is a challenge that comes along with that. That is the harsh truth of the NFL calendar. This newly constructed, highly paid unit must gel almost instantly.
If they take a minute to get going this year, if they stumble out of the gates trying to find their chemistry in a division as brutally competitive as the NFC North, that is exactly how you lose your grip on a season before Halloween even rolls around.
Section 5. A franchise on the brink. The weight of expectations.
When you really take a step back and analyze this entire situation, every single roster move made in the front office, every retained blocker like the rookie Caden Barnett, every brutal, life-altering cut made at the end of camp, it all connects right back to the exact center of the Chicago universe, Caleb Williams. The rookie who had the sheer audacity to sit in front of a camera and tell the world that he idolizes the dominance of Aaron Rodgers. Think about the pressure. If Williams performs, if he lives up to the hype, that fully guaranteed $39.5 million contract isn't just money well spent. It goes down as a historic bargain for a franchise quarterback. But if he doesn't, or if that offensive line fails to keep him upright, Chicago is thrown right back into the absolute nightmare of the drawing board. What we're witnessing is the stark contrast between a traumatic, looping past, 2 solid decades of constant failed rebuilds, crashing head-on against the heavy financial commitment and raw, explosive potential of this 2026 master plan. Every single penny spent and every single minicamp rep taken is a desperate, highly calculated move by this organization to finally escape their own dark history.
So after laying all of this out, we are left to pose the ultimate, lingering question for this franchise. Armed with absolutely the most explosive, dynamic offensive weaponry they have had in a generation. Driven by a backfield duo fighting tooth and nail to be recognized as the undisputed kings of the NFL, and led by a young, completely fearless quarterback who openly studies and praises the very man who haunted the city of Chicago for 15 agonizing years. Can this meticulously crafted, highly expensive war machine finally, once and for all, overwrite the darkest chapters of the Bears' history and shatter the curse?
The collision course between past trauma and future potential doesn't start in week 1. It begins right now, in the dirt, the sweat, and the grind of minicamp. This massive story and the ultimate legacy of Caleb Williams in the city of Chicago is incredibly far from over. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this explainer here on NFL Nexus. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our deep dives, and we'll see you right back here next time.